Okay, what's up?
Well, I just called. First of all, I called about the DNA and the guys in the Marines. And I mean, I agree with them. I think it's kind of funny tonight. Your first three callers, all conservatives, Lynn. You must be getting a newer audience, different audience listening to you. But
now maybe I'm just holding on to more of Bob's audience because I'm so cute.
Right. That could be it. But anyway, no, I agree. These guys shouldn't be giving that up. You know, it's something though. You talk about Big Brother, and I can tell you. I'll tell you a quick story. I work for a large technology company, but we are always learning, but never coming to the knowledge of the truth. We don't know how to deal with what we learn about, and that, you know, all these discoveries we've got. And I mean, I see the way that we use, you know, we use tragedy and emergencies and all these things to push across all these type of restrictions. Is the way I see it, not freedoms, in the name of, you know, some type of catastrophe. And that's what I
Yes, well, that's what's happening with this horrible anti-terrorism bill.
Exactly.
That's going to gut the whole idea of habeas corpus. That now, I know everybody gets annoyed when it takes like 20 years to execute somebody.
Right.
But in this country, you have a right to appeal after... Look, if they're going to kill you, you should be able to appeal forever.
Right, I mean, you know, that's like...
And this anti-terrorism bill that the president is going to sign would make a 1 year after you're convicted in state court. You would only have 1 year after that to appeal to a federal court.
Yeah.
Now, you think, you sound pretty young, but if you go back to the 60s, people who were convicted...
Well, I'm 40, but go ahead.
All right, but so you remember in state courts for all kinds of things to do with the civil rights movement and everything?
Right.
And it would take years, and they'd appeal through the federal courts, and of course they'd find out everybody had lied in the state court, you know, and the state courts just wanted to keep segregation. So... you would have had people executed. You would have had the habeas corpus is the like foundation of everything good in this country that gives you a chance to have a conviction overturned. And because of the Oklahoma City bombing, people who care nothing about civil liberties.
I know. I nearly fell off my seat in the bus this morning when I saw the ACLU and the NRA in the same column. I mean, I couldn't believe what I was reading. But, you know, it's true. I mean, you don't have to be a liberal or a conservative to see what's going on.
To want civil liberties. And now it turns out Clinton's going to sign the bill.
Sign the bill. And you know, just to stretch it a little bit further, this thing with the credit card, that's called, or what was called, a smart card. And what it is a little chip that's in there, and it can hold up to 4 megabytes of information.
Right.
And you know, this putting your DNA on there, the financial community is looking to do that, you know, instead of like a debit card and an ATM card and all those types of things, to put your whole financial history on there.
Well, and the medical community, this guy that sends me this information, places that have, you know, single-payer health insurance, they want your medical history on this card.
Exactly. And they say, oh, but this is good because, you know, you can never go into a hospital and they give you the wrong medications because you're not with your own doctor.
Yeah, well, of course they don't say this is a way for the state to spy on you forever.
Exactly. Now listen to this one. They've piloted that card a couple of places in the United States. And that same chip, you know what they were doing in California? Instead of putting the chip in a card, they've been planting it in the neck of animals.
Oh, yes, so you can find the animal.
Find your animal, okay? So soon we won't even have to carry the card around. Yeah, just stick it up underneath my skin and, you know.
Yeah, every baby. You know, this is in the book of Revelations. This, I think, is something that David Koresh believed.
Well, David Koresh,
mark...
a lot of people believe it. I mean,
but
you know,
the thing is you would say they're crazy, but it's the mark of the beast.
Right.
That you'll be born. You'll be born, and they'll put that thing inside you.
And that, well, I said when I worked for a technology company, they did the studies, and the places that they can put it where it won't bend or be affected by movement is in your forehead and in the back of your hand. And that's exactly where the book of Revelation says it has to go. In your forehead or your hand, the mark will go. I mean, it's just kind of interesting that today we have the technology to do these things. But the point that I was making before is that we have all of this knowledge, and people, we don't know how to deal with it.
That's right. We don't have the morals.
That's right.
And the ethics to deal with the knowledge.
To deal with what
the
we've
technological
learned.
knowledge.
Because just as we was as what was saying before is that they're even they're using this medical history stuff, the DNA, the genetics, against people, like to discount you or disqualify you from medical insurance or maybe a job or something like that. Why? Because, maybe you're...
in 40 years, you're going to have a heart
attack. Yes,
unbelievable. It really is. I got to go.
All right, take care.
Sorry. There are people you could talk to forever, but you can't. I'm Lynn Samuels, Talk Radio 770 WABC.
I add a few more topics, but first, I was really impressed by your last caller. Could I recommend a play to him?
Yes.
One of the greatest plays ever written.
You are.
No, oh. I'm not going to let you guess. It's by Robert Anton Wilson. It's called Wilhelm Reich in Hell, and it's widely available at the more literary bookstores. He seems like a guy who would get into that whole thing.
Okay.
Anyway, just my topic and two brief things. My topic, today's Daily News. Did you see the article on the allegedly best and worst neighborhoods to live in New York?
And the fifth most likely place to get assaulted is Chelsea.
Yeah, that didn't seem right somehow because...
Better not be. I walk through Chelsea every day of my life.
Yeah, and the even weirder part was, for the Bronx, my neighborhood was considered first or second in terms of being safest, and I know from personal experience that's not right, so I would check their statistics or... I don't want to get conspiratorial, but maybe they're sort of doing something in conjunction with their real estate advertisers and stuff like that that's been known to happen. Another thing, how for years I've been telling you I have a crush on folk singer Christine Lavin?
Yes.
Well, I fell in love again last night with someone new. She's like an angel.
And Christine will be only too happy to hear.
Yeah, well, no. I was listening to Vin, and he had on Roseanne Cash. Oh, she took my breath away. I mean, she has it all. She's quite a woman, I'll tell you that. Let's see, what was my list?
I can't even say what she once said on stage. She once said something in front of her mother and father when she was on stage about country music.
Oh. Well.
About what she was putting back into country music that I can't even think. Don't think about it when you hang up.
She's not even doing
country music. And she wrote a book now.
Yeah, that's why she was on the show. She wrote a book. She's doing like some really sensitive acoustic stuff. She's like, your sensitive new age 30-something woman. She says
Christine Lavin will be so happy to hear this.
She's moving to Chelsea too, and I know Chelsea. Chelsea is a safe neighborhood, but
what I think it is?
Because it's knifings in Chelsea.
You know what I think it is about Chelsea? There are a lot of those big dance clubs way west in Chelsea, and I think this may have to do with 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning when these clubs let out.
But I wouldn't, swear by the Daily News or any newspaper. The last topic, briefly, did you see over the weekend on PBS this wonderful show about the World War II Jewish refugees living in Shanghai?
No.
It was great, and I know you have to go, but the saddest part of it was what once was the only, synagogue and yeshiva, now of all things, and I know you can make a joke or something connecting it to me, is now the Shanghai Psychiatric Hospital. That really... It was sad.
I'm thinking kind of like the 10 Commandments. You say take one from column A and one from column B.
I thought the Jews don't believe in the Book of Revelations. So, how does that add up with that card and the animals and?
Well, because when David Koresh, when all that was happening at Waco, I read the Book of Revelation.
Yeah, but then you have to get into your pseudo-pigrapher and your epigrapher and your Gnostic and your Kabbalah, and it's like you can go crazy trying to predict the end of the world.
Well, yeah, but this is coming true about this mark of the beast. It really is.
Well, that's sort of poetic, but I don't know.
Read Revelations. It's really quite an amazing thing. It really is.
In what language? What's the best version?
In what language? I only read English. If you can read one of those fancy languages, do it.
I can't do it, but I think it would be fun just off the top of my head to read in Gaelic.
Okay, read the Book of Revelations in Gaelic. Thank you. In college? Don't you all know somebody? You say, "Did you read so and so?" And they go, "Only in French." Oh, give me a break. Hi, Michael.
How you doing?
Okay, what's up?
Lynn, I have to agree with you on the students in Columbia. Now, anybody who thinks that this is anyway related to what happened in the 60s is not old enough to remember the 60s. America grew up in the 60s, and, you know, whatever your political philosophy was, we all sort of grew up then. Now, but I think it's being handled wrong. Here's how I would handle it. I would say to them, okay, you're right. You have the building. You're in charge. Learn what you want to learn. And as a matter of fact, you don't even have to graduate. Write out your diplomas right now. You're a doctor. You're a lawyer. Go get a job. And you see how fast they will change their tune.
Look, kids do this. They believe in this. They want ethnic studies. There is apparently a process at Columbia where students can suggest courses, but they don't want to do it that way. The 3 or 4 of them are on the hunger strike. The rest of them took over some building. It's part of growing up. You know, it's activism. They're interested. They're involved. It's a good thing. It doesn't mean I agree with what they want.
Okay, so I'm a little immature. I'll go get a building. I'm going to go take the Empire State Building tomorrow.
But there's nothing wrong with that. What do you expect college kids to be? Mature? They're in college.
Okay, but how would you handle it? What would you let them do? Just stay there forever?
Yes, I would let them do what in fact, they've handled it very badly. They've locked down the campus.
Mm-hmm.
They don't let anybody in or out without ID, which is why you're not seeing enough coverage on the news.
Right.
And, yeah, I would let them just do what they wanted for... Let them
for
do
how
what
long? I mean...
Yeah, 3-4 weeks.
Uh-huh. Then they'll get hungry.
Well, the 3 of them, I think one of them had to go to the hospital.
Right. Well, I hope nothing happens.
But I mean, don't insult them for being immature. They're in college. They're learning how to make their wishes known, how to take political action. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
If you don't do this when you're in college, honey, when are you going to do it?
But at other people's expense? I mean, what about the students that want to learn?
I don't know that they're keeping anybody out of classes.
Uh-huh. Okay, well, we'll follow it.
I think it's a fine thing. I really do.
I'll call you back sometime.
Okay,
take care.
Bye. It's just fine. You know, you're a kid. That's what kids do. It's okay. I'm Lynn Samuels, Talk Radio 770 WABC. Go away. We're saving Eli for later. Hi, Jimmy.
Hello, Lynn. It's interesting. This is, I think, Holocaust Week. You played a song earlier by Phil Ochs.
And I'm going to play more.
And in that song, he praised Mao Zedong, the communist dictator, who's in the Guinness Book of World Records for being the biggest mass murderer in history. He had been credited with killing between 30 and 40 million. Recently, we found out that the communists in China murdered 80 million from communist Chinese archives when some defectors
came. Yeah, but of course, he hadn't done it at the time Phil Ochs wrote that song.
Well, he was killing people since the 30s. I mean, that's when it started, the 20s and 30s. And actually, he got big in the 60s when this guy was singing. But I don't blame Phil Ochs only. We had Dean Rusk, a big American leader, thought that Mao Zedong was a Chinese George Washington. We had General Marshall and General Stilwell that did all they could to build up communist China into a superpower. I don't understand whether it's stupidity, treason, or just racism, where people think the death of 40, 60, 80 million Chinese is irrelevant.
It was not understanding what communism was. Do you have a computer?
No.
Oh.
I'm very primitive. Yeah, I have a rotary phone.
My goodness! And communists under your bed. I should have known. There was a piece...
No, but communist on ABC. You're playing a song by this guy praising Mao Zedong. Now, if somebody played a song by a guy praising a Ku Klux Klanman who was a murderer, they'd be called racist. Now, that doesn't mean you should be called communist. I'm not insinuating
I don't... Hey, look, everybody calls all of us so many names. Who cares anymore?
Well, I agree with that, too. But
there was a piece by Nicholas Van Hoffman in yesterday's Washington Post about how there really were communists in the State Department.
I know that. There still are. There still are in the CIA. Ames was one of many. Listen, and as far as Clinton signing a terrorist bill, it's funny, when Clinton was friends with Hillary, let's say Hillary Clinton funded the PLO, Clinton was friends with SDS, which became the Weather Underground, and recently Clinton had Hamas at the White House.
I like hummus.
More Americans listen to this radio station than any other talk radio station in the nation.
WABC, New York.
8 o'clock.
WABC, New York.
All right, now, I'm behind the times, by the way. This laser card has now gotten a $48,000 follow-up order for laser card readers and writers and the software to be used by the South Korean government's Ministry of Health. They are going to give these cards, which now I'm behind the times. Apparently, these cards, it's like a credit card. I have one. I mean, it's blank, but I have one. They used to only have 4 megabytes of information. They're up to 6.6 megabytes on something like a credit card. And the Health and Welfare Ministry of South Korea is going to start this citizen health card system that will compile information regarding a variety of health-related information, including individual health histories, health insurance, and be actively involved in systematic treatment, examination, and prescriptions. The health ministry will start with 3 health clinics in Suwon City near Seoul and issue trial cards to 5,000 people, including infants, children under 6, and senior citizens over 65. And this is an American company, and believe me, they're going to be doing something like that here any minute, and we better all watch out. Now, before I talk about the death of manners, the cover story on U.S. News and World Report, unfortunately, the article stinks. We got to hear another Phil Ochs song. Now, you guys, you young guys, you know you have to register for the draft today. But there is no draft. But there used to be a draft, which meant they could make you go into the Army. I forget when they ended it. Jimmy Carter, I think, ended it, didn't he? I should have checked that out. But you know how Bill Clinton, Bill Clinton dodged the draft. Well, the fact is everybody tried to dodge the draft. Not just during Vietnam. Nobody wanted to be drafted, not ever. And Phil Ochs, who was a liberal, but as you're going to hear in this song, and the one I'm going to play the next hour, Love Me, I'm a Liberal, you see, real progressives, people really on the left don't like liberals, because liberals are all wishy-washy. So let me give you the numbers first, because we have room. 212-563-WABC, 201-489-WABC, and 203-862-WABC. And here, some of you can listen to the song. You can dedicate it in your mind to the President Clinton if you want. I wouldn't. But here is Phil Ochs, who died 20 years ago last week. And this is the Draft Dodger Rag.
Oh, I'm just a typical American boy from a typical American town. I believe in God and Senator Dodd, and I keep an old Castro down. And when it came my time to serve, I knew better dead than red. But when I got to my old draft board, buddy, this is what I said. Sarge, I'm only 18, I got a ruptured spleen, and I always carry a purse. I've got eyes like a bat, and my feet are flat, and my asthma's getting worse. Yes, think of my career, my sweetheart dear, my poor old invalid aunt. Besides, I ain't no fool, I'm a-going to school, and I'm a-working in a defense plant. I got a dislocated disc and a racked up back. I'm allergic to flowers and bugs. And when the bombshell hits, I get epileptic fits, and I'm addicted to 1,000 drugs. I got the weakness woes, I can't touch my toes, I can hardly reach my knees. And if the enemy came close to me, oh, I'd probably start to sneeze. I'm only 18, I got a ruptured spleen, and I always carry a purse. I've got eyes like a bat, and my feet are flat, my asthma's getting worse. Yes, think of my career, my sweetheart dear, my poor old invalid aunt. Besides, I ain't no fool, I'm a-going to school, and I'm a-working in a defense plant. Ooh, I hate show and lie, and I hope he dies. But one thing you gotta see, that someone's gotta go over there, and that someone isn't me. So I wish you well, Sarge, give him hell. Kill me 1,000 or so. And if you ever get a war without blood and gore, I'll be the first to go.
All together.
Yes, I'm only 18, I got a ruptured spleen, and I always carry a purse. I've got eyes like a bat, and my feet are flat, my asthma's getting worse. Yes, think of my career, my sweetheart dear, my poor old invalid aunt. Besides, I ain't no fool, I'm a-going to school, and I'm working in a defense plant.
Oh, isn't that great? I thought I was turning the mic on and I turned it off. People should remember Phil. All right. U.S. News and World Report cover in your face. Whatever happened to good manners? Well, who knows? The odd thing is they took a poll, of course, and people, 89% of people think incivility is a big problem. 78% that it got worse in the last few years. People think the decline of civility contributes to violence, eroding values, a divided community, and yet, when they ask them who is uncivil, most people, 86% of people think police officers are civil. 74% think athletes are civil. What's been going on in basketball, now Magic Johnson last week got all upset because the other guy headbutted the umpire. And now Magic Johnson just got suspended for shoving an umpire. 71% of people think government workers are civil. I mean, over 50% of people seem to think pretty much everybody is civil. And yet 72% of people think driving etiquette of others has gotten worse. The interesting thing about this is people think everybody else is affected by the incivility around them. But everybody believes in their own moral superiority. That's where the real danger is. Everybody, as you read this article, the cover articles in these news magazines are always so disappointing. Black people, oddly enough, they break this down by black and white. They're much more optimistic. Black people see things as better in the last 10 years or so, which I find very odd. 52% of Americans think talk radio is to blame for incivility. But when they ask people to rate service, retail stores, 85% of people are satisfied, only 11% aren't. Banks, 84% are satisfied. Fast food restaurants, they must not have asked a lot of people who live in cities, I'll tell you that. Because everybody is so rude. People drive. You know, I don't know why I am suddenly noticing, if you're making, what do you make, right turns? Why does everybody in the left lane make a right turn? Because I take the bus a lot, and all you have is the bus is going, and somebody on the left side of the bus, they turn right in front of the bus. Car phones, well, that's part of it. But who do they interview about this article? Bill Maher, host of Politically Incorrect, and Sally Jesse Raphael. And teenagers are rude. Everybody is rude. Nobody wants to control their children. And this article has absolutely no conclusion, no suggestions, nothing. I mean, this is the most useless article I have ever read in my life, except it's good to bring up as a topic on the radio. You want to get scared to death here? Monkeys imported into Texas from the Philippines. 2 monkeys in Texas have been found to have the Ebola virus. Go rent Outbreak. Go get Laurie Garrett's book. Go get, what's that other one where Lionel talks to the Hot Zone. These monkeys, now, there had been in Reston, Virginia in 1989, an Ebola strain. Now, this one in Texas isn't as bad, but this is bad enough. And the monkeys, this is very interesting. The monkeys that have the Ebola virus now in Texas come from the same exporter who exported the monkeys in 1989 to Reston, Virginia. Could I make a suggestion Would you stop ordering monkeys from this person? Get another monkey company? You know, or whatever they call them, the monkey exporters. So they killed these two, they killed the monkeys. But I don't like this. I don't like this because it said, somebody said here, once again, said somebody or other, why don't they have this all in order? Not Dr. Diane Simpson, some other, Bob Howard from the Center for Disease Control. See, if I did a good show here, I would have called this guy up. I would have said, come on the air. But, hey, I like to hear myself talk. He said, once again, Ebola has proven it's quite capable at any time of stepping out of the jungles in any species, both man and primate. Ebola is one of the world's deadliest diseases. 80% of its victims bleed to death. It's spread through bodily fluids. It has... This will stop. I mean, where is Marie? Because she probably has it already. It has no treatment and no cure. But this one is not as bad as some of the other ones. In Texas, the doctors sought a CDC diagnosis immediately when one monkey died with bloody diarrhea. Well, maybe it had just eaten those potato chips with that stuff in it. What is that stuff? I forgot already. A second monkey with similar symptoms was killed. And the CDC is now diagnosing, and the animal rights activists will be demonstrating. Just because it has a disease with no treatment and no cure, how could you kill a little monkey? So all I say is, my first suggestion is stop buying monkeys from this guy in the Philippines who keeps sending these Ebola monkeys. All right, I'm Lynn Samuels. This is Talk Radio 770. The numbers, the numeros, are 212-5... Olestra. That's what I was trying... That's the word I was... You have to keep up with me, you know? You just have to keep up with me. I forgot a word 5 sentences ago. Now I remembered it. I keep you on your toes. 212-563-WABC, 201-489-WABC. Jack puts me in a giddy mood. And he's not even doing anything. 203-862-WABC. I am not here tomorrow. I will be at Caroline's at 7 o'clock, seeing Lionel and Bruce and Dick, and perhaps even participating. And then I'm here Wednesday and Thursday, and one of those quickies Friday, and then, of course, Saturday morning. It's a good week. Yes, it is. All the bosses are away. See, you still... Doesn't anybody but me have this mischievous... Am I, like, just so juvenile that am I the only one who feels like we should do something? Like, the teacher isn't here. Denise is the substitute. You can put anything over on... Is it only me? Like, Jack, you just think you're going to come in and do your job, right? I'm the only one who thinks they're not here. They went away. Let's do something. Let's, like, shoot, you know, under Don's door, that, you know, foam. So, like, Don will come back and he'll open his door and the office will be full of foam. And Phil? Can't we do that? Disney would love it. That's a Disney kind of a thing. That's so cute. Maybe we need ideas from these people. What can we do to the bosses? And we'll just tell Denise, you know, mind your own business. I'm Lynn Samuels, Talk Radio 770. And he's sending me, he faxed me a letter that he wrote to the Daily News. He faxed it to me a couple of hours ago, and now he faxed me, read my letter. See, the bosses who work here now are gone, but the boss who doesn't work here is still bossing. This is a letter John has written to the Daily News, and for some reason, he has a touch. His letters always get printed, so look out for it. Dear Editor, why is Mike McAlery obsessed with Bernie Goetz's glasses? In the same column today, he described them as out of style and later as crude. Could it be that your overpaid, overrated, tabloid-hopping hack looks down his stuck-up nose at anyone not wearing frames by Fabergé? Sincerely, John Manelli. A man with too much time on his hands, obviously. Here's another guy with too much time on his hands.
Lynn, how's one of my favorite people?
Okay, how are you, Eli from Westchester?
Fine. First of all, Bernie Goetz should be in a mental institution. He is so embarrassing when you
I came in here Saturday. I had to look for chinchilla poop.
Oh, God.
He was up here with Curtis. He brought his pet chinchilla. I'm looking around. I figured it would be about the size of a mouse.
It is, when you let him talk, it is absolutely embarrassing.
Oh, he's insane.
He's Looney Tunes.
He really is.
And to have people running around cheering him on is so, you know, it's what was that movie that had, I've had enough already?
Network.
That's what he reminds me of, except he's even scarier because he has a gun or had a gun. And I never thought I would miss John Manelli until you have this freedom speaking, Phil Boyce.
All right, let's not talk about him. He's in Florida. But
is he? Well,
yes.
you should ask for your freedom back, freedom of speech back.
All right, okay.
Okay. Aside from that, the reason I called, did you see Minister Louis Farrakhan last night on 60 Minutes?
Yeah, talk about your nutcases.
Come on, I thought he was... I'll tell you what. Say what you want about what he said, and he looks great.
To break up really bad.
How about now? Is that better?
No, just talk.
Okay, real quick. I was inspired by Eli's call and his bringing up of Minister Farrakhan to pick up the phone at 75 cents a minute. Basically, what I wanted to say was this. The truth is, Eli has a lot of good points about Minister Farrakhan. Minister Farrakhan's basic message to the African-American community is a great one. It's one of self-empowerment.
Oh, I agree with that.
But you want to know something? When Mr. Farrakhan, or Minister Farrakhan, rather, okay, grows up a little bit and realizes to stop scapegoating the Jews, who have been historically the typical scapegoat in history. The Germans did it, the Spaniards did it, everyone's done it, the Polish have done it. Everyone's always scapegoated the Jews for why life's not good.
Okay, thank you.
And
you're making awful sounds.
Sorry.
Goodbye. Well, I'm saving him money here. Hi, Steve.
Oh, hi, Lynn. I love your show.
Thank you.
I called to bring a little skepticism to the right-wing paranoid fantasy of the implant.
It's right and left-wing paranoid.
Oh, really? Well, it's just nuts. I think it will never happen for a number of reasons. First of all, it's not constitutional. There's a lot of precedent for this. The government can't mess around with my body. It just can't put stuff in there. It can't take stuff out. Can't, like Roe versus Wade is based basically on this. It's right to privacy.
Yeah, but all of these civil liberties, those are civil liberties, and they are being eroded and eroded and eroded with the imprimatur of the
well, it's true. This
Democrats. And Bill Clinton is going to sign this anti-terrorism bill that practically eliminates habeas corpus.
Right. Now, things like that I would start to worry about. But this implant is not useful. It really isn't useful. There's no point to putting... First of all, it could be put anywhere. And the cats in California, when they did that experiment, they put it in their necks. It doesn't have to go in the head or the hand. That guy, and anybody who tells you what's in the Book of Revelations, that's a book of more of poetry. It's not prophecy. It's no fact to it. It has to be read properly. And it just drives me nuts when people read it that way.
I don't know. When I read during the siege at Waco, and I started reading it, and you're saying that the FBI was causing everything David Koresh and anybody who believed in the Book of Revelations, they were causing that to happen.
Yeah. Well, I still have to be very skeptical. I don't believe that.
Yeah, but this country is so afraid of crime. Everything is done in the service of stopping crime.
That's what we have to be afraid of. We're going too far in the other direction. We can't have everything.
Well, that's right, but why are you so sure that it would never come to the point where they say, well, look at that. Do you know that there are places now, cities, that are mounting cameras, infrared cameras in the street?
Yeah, sure.
To watch people?
Baltimore.
That's right. So they'll know where a bullet... Well, this is the beginning of something horrible.
Right, but the implant, and actually the card itself, what we should really worry about is what is stored away in computers. It doesn't matter whether we have a card of it or not. They have our medical records.
No, but this will all be in a computer. You'll have the card, and you'll go to the doctor,
Right.
and they have a special machine that reads it, but that will all be in some computer data
It
bank.
doesn't have to be. It's already on a computer data bank, and they can access it with, the modem. They just ring it up, and there's your whole life story, everything.
Yes, Newsday had a whole series last week about this and how they sell it, and nothing is private anymore.
Oh, it has to be controlled. Right now, we have control over what happens to our medical history. Employers can't get it. It's our personal
Yes,
private
but they
stuff.
can. That
Well,
isn't true. If
that's
you read
right.
the thing in Newsday, technically
no,
we
you're
do,
right.
but in reality we don't.
You're right. Well, that's what I would worry about. But the card itself doesn't matter. Whether it's in a card or a file, it's someplace in a computer that anybody can get to. But the implant is just sort of over the hill. I don't believe that.
Well, I don't think so. I think you start with one thing and you go down that slippery slope. Thank you, Steve.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Lynn. I enjoy your show.
Thank you.
I wish to talk about Bernard Goetz.
Yes.
If I was on the jury at his criminal trial, it would have been a hung jury. He was guilty of assault with intent to kill, in my opinion. I feel very strong about this.
Me too.
For one thing, Lynn, it is not a crime to say to a person, even in a stern voice, with a very stern voice, give me $5. It's happened to me. They did not touch his person. They did not show any weapons. These teenagers, in my opinion, knew what they were doing. They knew they were not committing a crime. The most they could have been guilty of, which is technically against the law, is harassment or intimidation. As soon as Bernard Goetz showed the gun, they ran in different directions. If Bernard Goetz had left it on that level, which he didn't want to do, nobody would have been hurt. But he emptied his gun. He didn't stop firing until every bullet was gone from his gun. Once he started firing, he wanted to, in my opinion, kill them because of the rage inside of him for years and years. And it amazes me, how many people are on his side. This man is paranoid. He is a criminal. He is so lucky because, as I said before, if I was on the jury, in my heart, I could have not come in with the verdict they came in. It would have been a hung jury.
If it happened now, he would be convicted. There was something about this was, 11 years ago.
Yes.
I don't think that he would be let go if this happened now. And I think he's going to lose the civil case, but to what end? I mean, to sue a man who doesn't have any money for $50 million.
Yes.
You'll feel that there's some justice. And I know all the arguments. Somebody's going to call and say, but every single one of those guys has been arrested time after time. They were terrible people.
Yes.
But you don't know that while it's happening.
Yes,
You're not looking into the future.
Yes, Bernard Goetz didn't know that. I mean, in a courtroom, of course, that's thrown out because Bernard Goetz did not know they had previous criminal records.
And he is just crazy. I have had the misfortune of meeting him. He was up here years and years ago to be on Bob's show or something. He's nuts. I mean, you just meet him, and this guy is so crazy looking.
Yes, and I try to explain to people, Lynn, that it is not a crime to even stand a couple of inches away from a person and say, "Give me $5." That is not a robbery. You have to show a weapon.
That's right.
And touch the person. If you touch the person, show a weapon. Okay, but they did not touch his person at all. There is no doubt about that. Nobody.
No, I agree with you 100%. And do you know who his lawyer is married to? Sidney Biddle Barrow.
Yes, I read
lawyer
that.
To me, the whole thing just is ridiculous. These people are buffoons.
Yes.
Ron Kuby is a good lawyer, and he's a person with ethics and morality and integrity. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. And then when Bernard Goetz loses, everybody's going to say, of course, because they had it in the Bronx. And the jury, they're, 4 blacks and 2 Hispanics or something. And they'll make everything racial again. But what can you do?
Yes.
Thanks, dear.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm Lynn Samuels, Talk Radio 770 WABC.
And I was listening to you mention Phil Ochs and Sonny Tansman and everything. Do you know Sonny?
I used to know her. Yeah, she used to come down to Folk City sometimes.
Oh, okay, because she was my teacher in...
That's Phil Ochs' sister, for people who don't know, in whose house Phil killed himself.
Yeah, in Rockaway.
And she said, Phil, stop hanging around.
Ba-dum-bum-bum.
We did that earlier.
Okay. And she was my teacher in junior high school, and she was my sister's teacher in junior high school, and she was great. And Phil used to show up once in a while, and then she kind of mentored everyone and told everyone that, I'm teaching you stuff, but don't necessarily listen to it because I have to say it, but yeah, she was real good. Don't listen to the pat lines too much and everything. And you brought chills down my spine because I just turned 40 and I'm probably deep in midlife crisis and everything, and I have a house and a mortgage and kids and everything. And
well, that's when people stop fucking the system. Once you get into the system,
yeah,
and you have kids and you've got those bills to pay.
And Phil Oaks was the time when you didn't have any of this stuff, when you were free and you went to Central Park and you went in the middle of the streets and tied up traffic and stuff for your political protests.
But they have other stuff today. They have. Did you watch Steve Forbes on Saturday Night Live?
Yeah, sure did.
Yeah, so they have that band now, Rage Against the Machine. Which is, although you couldn't understand a word the guy was saying, the fact is the machine, what they're talking about is that it's against capitalism.
Yeah.
So there's music like that, and there are kids doing stuff.
I have this political argument in my house all the time with my parents and my sisters. Can you be against capitalism and still survive today and have a family and a house and all that?
Yeah, because I'm against capitalism, but you think I send my checks back?
No,
you can be a total hypocrite. I am.
Boy, I have to introduce you to my brother-in-law someday.
I think capitalism is terrible. I think somehow you ought to take everything, and every person in the world should have the same amount of stuff. That there should be nobody living in poverty and, in horrible conditions, and everything should be equal.
Well, maybe if they just, it's the Robin Hood trickle-down theory, maybe if they just took from the super rich and gave some of theirs to some of the super poor and shook things up a little bit.
But it'll never happen. So in the meantime, I say that, but I take the check and I'm happy to get it. Thanks, Aaron.
Nice to talk.
Bye. Jack, tell the lady that she can come in here. We have different people cleaning today, which is very disturbing. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Lynn. How are you?
Okay, what's up?
Well, I was just listening a little while ago. In fact, actually, when I got in the car, I turned on, I heard the song by Phil Oaks, and I just want to say that normally I don't agree with everything you say, and I have to tell you, I certainly agree with that song and everything it represents, because if you weren't there, you don't know. And I was there. I was 18 at the time. It was a question of being drafted or whatever. I became a New York City school teacher, which I still am today, and it couldn't have worked out better. But I became a school teacher because of that war. And
people got degree after degree after degree to stay in college.
And I'm one of them, and I'm very proud of it. I have to tell you, anybody that says this thing about Clinton, about being a draft dodger, is absolutely nuts because they weren't there or they just don't remember. And they ought to all look back if they can.
I agree with you. People forget. I had this theory when that little kid died in a plane about why older people should not have children. And it's because when you have a kid and you're in your 20s, you remember what it is to be a child. If you're 23 years old, you have a great memory of being 8.
Well,
and the older you get, nobody now. I'm 54. I really remember being 16 and 17, but most people don't.
Well, I was number 2 on the
You were
lottery.
number 2. Your heart must have
I was the only lottery
fell
I
through
ever
your
won,
stomach.
and I was locked and loaded, and I was going, and there was no way I was going to go.
Oh my God!
So I stuck it out at LIU for degree after degree. I became a New York City school teacher, and I got out of it, and I'm proud that I got out of it. And I think that anybody who accuses Clinton of any of this stuff is absolutely nuts.
I agree with you.
Doesn't have a memory.
I agree with you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
People really forget. The people who say, and you can put this in everything. Oh, these kids at Columbia, what they're doing is terrible. Or tell the kids not to have sex. If you give them condoms, they're going to have sex, because if you didn't give them a condom, no teenager would ever think of having sex. Tell them not to drink. Tell them not to take drugs. Well, remember when you were, people just go into some amnesia at about the time, I don't know, when you're about 40. People sink into total amnesia. You can't tell kids not to drink. And you can't tell kids not to take terrible chances. And you can't tell teenagers not to have sex. I mean, you can tell them. But you can't try to remember. I mean, I feel the memory fading. But I know it's, but I remember how I behaved. And I know why I behaved that way. Because you have no control over yourself. You really don't. I think you look back, it is a miracle probably that most of us have lived through to whatever age we've lived through. I'm Lynn Samuels, Talk Radio 770, WABC. Revelations. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, now, Lynn, first of all, when it comes down to Bernie Getz, I feel like he was justified with what he did. Because if he didn't have that gun, I can imagine what them guys would have did to him, you know? So they was all looking for trouble, and Bernie gave it to him, you know?
Okay.
I think it's
we have to put you on hold a second. Hang on. So these are not hard to find. Maybe Jack can look on the back of the CD and tell me what company is that? What company put out the CD? It must say that Elektra. It's an Elektra record. Okay? So this is how you can tell a real lefty. Because real progressives, real leftists do not like liberals, because liberals change with the wind. You know, liberals, you can't count on them. They're wishy-washy, and they're just not dependable to stay on the left. Now, there are references for you younger folk out there that you're not going to get, but you're going to get the idea. This is Phil Ochs, Love Me, I'm a Liberal.
In every American community, you have varying shades of political opinion. One of the shadiest of these is the liberals. An outspoken group on many subjects. 10 degrees to the left of center in good times. 10 degrees to the right of center if it affects them personally. So here then is a lesson in safe logic. I cried when they shot Medgar Evers. Tears ran down my spine. And I cried when they shot Mr. Kennedy, as though I'd lost a father of mine. But Malcolm X got what was coming. He got what he asked for this time. So love me, love me, love me, I'm a liberal. Get it?
Yes.
I go to civil rights rallies, and I put down the old DAR. DAR, that's the dikes of the American Revolution. I love Harry and Sidney and Sammy. I hope every colored boy becomes a star. But don't talk about revolution. That's going a little bit too far. So love me, love me, love me, I'm a liberal. I cheered when Humphrey was chosen, my faith in the system restored. And I'm glad that the commies were thrown out from the AFL-CIO board. And I love Puerto Ricans and Negroes, as long as they don't move next door. So love me, love me, love me, I'm a liberal. Ah, the people of old Mississippi should all hang their heads in shame. Now I can't understand how their minds work. What's the matter, don't they watch Les Crane? But if you ask me to bus my children, I hope the cops take down your name. So love me, love me, love me, I'm a liberal. Yes, I read New Republic and Nation. I've learned to take every view. You know, I've memorized Lerner and Golden. I feel like I'm almost a Jew. But when it comes to times like Korea, There's no one more red, white, and blue. So love me, love me, love me. I'm a liberal. I vote for the Democratic Party. They want the UN to be strong. I attend all the Pete Seeger concerts. He sure gets me singing those songs. And I'll send all the money you ask for, but don't ask me to come on along. So love me, love me, love me. I'm a liberal. Sure, once I was young and impulsive. I wore every conceivable pin. Even went to socialist meetings. Learned all the old Union hymns. Ah, but I've grown older and wiser, and that's why I'm turning you in. So love me, love me, love me. I'm a liberal.
And that's the amazing thing. Remember, this man died 20 years ago. These songs, I could play this whole CD. There is not one song that isn't relevant to something going on today. It is amazing. Of course, anybody who sees things that clearly and sees through hypocrisy as clearly as he did was destined to end up committing suicide, because you can't live and see as clearly as he did. Now, Steve, who does the Phil Ochs stuff, Sonny Ochs, is Phil's sister. She's near Albany, and she has a folk music radio show on WRPI-FM in Troy. He actually wrote Tory, but I assume he means Troy. And Steve met her in Philadelphia. And you might mention the web page again. What web page? You can use a web browser and look for Phil Ochs, which for anybody who doesn't know is OCHS. Ochs, OCHS. All right? Well, wasn't this a nostalgia trip tonight? But it's amazing. I'll keep the CD. I've been listening to this CD. I actually have this on tape, but I've been listening to the CD all week. Maybe that's why I want to shoot foam under the boss's door. I was never into this. See, you people think the way I talk and everything, I was into this in the 60s. I wasn't. I got into this stuff like in 1975 when I went to BAI and it was all over. Because in the 60s, I'm going, they throw things at Peace March. I'm not going out there. And I could have gone down south in the civil rights. I was afraid. I was a little scaredy cat. So I never even got into any of this, despite what you all must think. All right, we actually have all these people hanging on.
How are you?
Okay, how are you?
I love the Phil Ochs tribute, and I wanted to know if you were aware that Tom Paxton on one of his albums wrote a song in tribute to Phil Ochs.
No, I'm not, because I'm not a big Paxton fan.
Oh, I think he's just as good, maybe even better. But I like them both. I mean, they left such a legacy, and they...
Is Tom Paxton dead?
No.
Oh.
No, but I mean, the
okay.
The music.
Scared me. You probably really scared Tom Paxton.
No, I mean, all those people from the 60s that were musical like that, they've left such a wonderful... such wonderful things for us.
The thing amazing about Ochs is you listen to these songs, and he could have written them yesterday.
Absolutely.
I didn't play this Cops of the World. I mean, what do we talk about all the time now?
Mm-hmm. And do you know Jay Diamond had that Love Me, I'm a Liberal song?
Oh, see, somebody told me that Curtis was playing it.
Well, but no, Jay made up some other words to it.
Oh, I missed that. Oh, I wish I had heard it.
It was hilarious. It really was hilarious.
Yeah, that song is good for that.
Well,
Anything else?
Where can we hear any Phil Ochs stuff? I know you announce it sometimes, but I'm usually working.
Oh, you can't. You have to go buy the CDs.
Oh, I thought there was somebody that does Phil Ochs.
No. His sister has a radio show up in Troy, New York, but it's a folk music show. It's not a Phil Ochs show.
Oh, I thought that there was someone that performs his songs.
Steve Carter.
Okay.
He put you up to this.
No.
When he sends me a fax that he's performing, I'll mention it, okay?
Great. Okay, thanks.
Okay, bye.
No, bye.
Okay. Oh, Jeff, who I lost before.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. Hey,
Oh.
Lynn, look,
Yes.
when them guys was on the train, I understand they didn't pull out the screwdriver and they didn't touch him. But if he hadn't pulled out the gun, he would have touched him.
Well, maybe they...
would've-
Jeff, can
Yeah.
everybody pull out a gun when somebody scares them?
If you think your life is in danger, yeah.
Well, I don't think so. I disagree. You can't just
Lynn.
be pulling out guns when people are scaring you.
Lynn, but a lot of people are saying, why is this guy suing Bernie when he doesn't have any money? Maybe he don't have money now, but I'm sure somewhere down the line it's going to be a book deal or movie.
Well, I don't know. He hasn't. This is 11 years ago.
True, and I'm surprised nothing has came out yet. But anyway, when it comes down to Farrakhan, I think people don't want to hear what he got to say.
All right,
because
look,
the
Jeff,
truth
your
hurts.
line, I can't understand you. This line, you got to get a better line. I can't, I knew that's why I didn't mind. Yes, Dorothy.
Lynn,
Yes.
I appreciate you taking
Yeah,
my...
all right, stop kissing my rear end. What do you want to say?
Come on, Lynn, will you? Lynn, I didn't want to respond specifically to Eli, but today I got a letter from Congressman Peter King, who has been very active in seeing that Farrakhan is investigated for the treachery that he committed, that he should be held accountable. And when I got that letter and then I heard Eli, I felt maybe I should call you. First of all, Farrakhan and people like Eli must accept the idea that the Jews are not going to have anything to do with Farrakhan. They don't trust him. He's insincere. He wrote a book about Jews and slavery. But if Jews were so prominent in slavery, how come all the blacks became Baptist Christians? The guy is full of a lot of baloney. Did you see Mike Wallace with him, Lynn?
Yes, that's how this conversation started.
Oh, I see. Well, all right, I didn't hear that at the beginning. Now, Mike Wallace made a statement that Nigeria was most corrupt.
Yes, and Farrakhan yelled at him about all the things this country has done, which he wasn't wrong about one of them.
Yeah, but Lynn, what Mike Wallace should have told Farrakhan is if this country is corrupt, it's not corrupt only because white Americans were corrupt. We have corruption in every urban center where blacks...
Oh, all right, Dorothy,
dominate.
goodbye. I can't take this. I really can't. And I'm not in the mood for this one. Let's take the break. Well, trying to.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, the rebel without a cause kind of teen thing. But except now, the sad thing is what kids actually do now is different from when you were a kid, you know. If anything, actually, I want to say teens brutalize other teens more than anybody else.
Well, that's true. I just read something that the subjects of crime are most often teenagers. Are you a teenager?
A 34-year-old teenager.
You sound young. What can I say?
Yeah, I know. People still ask me once in a while in my mother's house if my mommy is home, so...
Yeah, well, that's a good way to get rid of people. I got carded in D'Agostino's the other day, and I'm 54, so if you really want to feel young, try to buy a beer at D'Agostino's. So they're good. But not all kids. You know, I mean, kids, they brutalize each other, which is the saddest
It's
part.
really scary, and to hear what they do in school to each other and shooting kids on... It's terrible. Although I was really upset to hear the woman that was raped in Fordham, it was by a young man. Maybe he's older than what they thought, but, 16 to 18 years old. And
Is that how old they said he was? I thought older.
Well, what I had heard was younger.
Oh, that
and it really
story
upset me.
that's just a horror story. That's what every woman fears the most.
But that such a young guy, I'm sure he's older, but that young guys have so much hostility and anger. But then you look at the point like they feel like there's nothing to lose because what kind of futures can anybody look forward to anyway? It's not the same as, like, do you remember A City Across the River with Tony Curtis and company? They made the gun in shop class and they killed a teacher.
Yes.
Well,
but it's also that everybody thinks they have to have instant gratification. Nobody is taught anymore. You know, you can have all the sexual desire in the world or all the anger and hostility, but it doesn't mean that you have to manifest it, that you have to act it out. People are not taught any self-control.
Well, it's mixed messages because advertising every minute, don't you want all these products, and anybody can get a charge card, but then it's like, you know, you're supposed to have control about...
Well, and plus that the parents who feel guilty that they never, with the kid wants something, they buy them everything they want. You know, I mean, we had deals in my house. If you want this, save up half the money, you know, and then we'll give you the other half of the money. So we didn't just get everything.
Yeah, well,
and now, because so many parents, because the mother works, the father works, they feel guilty. So, like, anything kids want, they get them immediately. And a kid doesn't know what it is to wait or withhold,
yeah,
you
then
know.
they grow up to be Lyle and Eric Menendez.
Exactly.
Another set of dolls over there. But you know what? On the subway, I get scared of teenagers, boys and girls, but actually I get more scared of girls lately. I don't know why. I do
feel
feel
louder.
Well, it hasn't been like when I was a kid, girls were annoying, but like now that girls, you hear that, you know, girls actually cut each other and fight and all this nonsense. Girls are getting really violent.
Yes, they are. Well,
yes,
see, that's
equal opportunity.
Yeah,
now.
women's lib. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, Glenn and Elliot.
More Americans listen to this radio station than any other talk radio station in the nation.
WABC. If he plays it loud enough, I can't talk over it. It's 10 o'clock.
From ABC News. I'm Mary Margaret Myers. Victims of the Oklahoma City bombing pleaded with Congress today to pass anti-terror legislation.
I have a hole in my skull, a plastic left eye. The other eye isn't all that good, but folks, I'm alive. And helping pass this legislation, I take personally as one of the reasons God let me live.
Martin Cash, and others who survived in the blast, and people with loved ones who did not survive, all brought their stories to Capitol Hill. Congressional leaders say they think they have worked out a compromise that will pass Congress. The measure would make it easier to deport foreigners suspected, though not convicted, of terrorism. A judge in Montana has ordered the release of a list of more than 700 items seized by the FBI from Ted Kaczynski's cabin. More from ABC's Bob Jamieson in Helena.
According to the FBI list, Kaczynski seemed to live in a bomb factory. There were the tools: files, drills, saws, tweezers. The chemicals: jars with ammonium nitrate, bags with sodium chloride, powders and glue. A plastic jar with triggering...